for Avinash, what kind of policies that we can have? We can attach S3. For Suresh, we can give some, we can say some other, some RDS, and for Prasanna, we can give some VPC, something like that. Okay, we can give. So now I have these IAM users, guys. I have this IAM users. So this is a big team. Just imagine not only four, we have 10, 15, 20 members are there. So now I need to give these are all these people are in same team. I need to give, let's say, for example, Route 53 permissions to all of the IAM users here. So what do you think? Should I go ahead and then enable Route 50, add Route 53 permissions to each and every individual one by one, one by one, one by one to all 20 users? No. Instead of that, what do we create? We create IAM group. Create a group. So we create a group called, let's say, for example, DevOps group, right? And then we create it, and what we do, we will, for that group, I'll give a Route 53 permissions. And then I'll add all these people to this group. Understood, guys? So once I add all these people to this group, so automatically whatever the permissions that we have, whatever the policies that we have it for the group level, that will get inherited to all these users. Correct? Make sense? So that is the, so if I add any, so guys, can you also tell that one single user can have multiple policies? Yes, possible, right? So same way, a group can also have multiple policies, correct? Yes, a group can also has a multiple policies. Let's say if I go ahead and then attach, let's say for example, EFS, right? For in the group. So whoever all is in that group, everyone will get also EFS, right? Automatically? Yes. And also when I add this IAM users to the group, their individual permissions will be lost. No, their individual permissions will not be lost. So can I create multiple groups? Yes, is it possible to create group under group like this? That is not possible. Remember, group under group is not possible. If you want to create a group, you need to go ahead and create a separate group. Let's say, for example, I can create a group called admin group and then add Andres and Sri and Lakshman, all these people to this group. Can I add this to the admin group? Yes, I can create admin user. I create admin group and I will add all these people to the particular group. Make sense? Understood, guys, everyone? Okay. So AWS says that these are all, so before I go a little bit deeper in the policy side, but do you all understood about the groups concept? So I'll start writing all this information for you so that it will be easy to. So IAM group. So what is IAM group? Can we say that it's a collection of IAM users? Yes, collection of IAM users. Group under groups are not possible, or nested groups are not possible. Hmm. Okay. Is it possible to attach multiple policies to the IAM? No, right? Is it possible to attach multiple policies, guys? Yes. I'll say answer itself. It is. It is possible to attach multiple policies to the IAM users and groups as also. Okay. So guys, remember how many maximum policies you can have. Maximum is For user or for a group, how many maximum policies that you can attach? 10 policies you can attach. So can you detach the policies whenever you want? Yes, you can attach and detach policies to the IAM users and groups anytime. Okay. And so whatever we have learned, I'm putting it. So guys, if you attach any IAM user to the IAM group, the individual permissions will be lost? No. If you attach any IAM user to the IAM group, IAM user individual policies remains same. Okay. And the new permissions will be inherited to the IAM user. Make sense? Guys, can you assign keys to the group? You cannot assign or create keys to the group. So group is only to do the collection of IAM users. That's it. So keys cannot be shared, by the way. Correct? Keys cannot be shared. Okay. You cannot assign, create, or you cannot assign or create keys to the groups. So keys are only for IAM users, correct? Agree? Keys are only for IAM users, not IAM groups. We have learned keys are in specific to the users, not for the groups. So all in all, can I say that IAM group are used to assign policies to the bunch of IAM users at the same time? Can we say that? Yes. IAM groups are used to assign policies to the bunch of IAM users at the same time? Answer is yes. Just tell me, one IAM user can be attached to multiple groups? Yes. An IAM user can be attached to multiple groups at the same time. So one person can be in multiple groups. Doesn't matter. So one user, one IAM user can be in multiple groups. The individual permissions, their respective permissions will be attached. So guys, one question for you. You created a brand new IAM user. By default, do you have any permissions attached to that brand new IAM user? Brand new IAM user will not have any permissions or policies attached by default. So nothing will be there until, because how does the AWS knows what kind of permissions that we should have, right? So whenever we create a new IAM user, no permissions will be there. We should go ahead and add it. Is this clear till here, everyone? Yes. Okay. Nice. Now, guys, we were talking about this policies and permissions, right? So what is a policies generally? What is policies? When we say policies is a set of permissions generally, rules. So here policies and permissions, like, so generally here in AWS, in IAM, policies actually call it as policy documents. What does the document contains? That policy documents contains permissions. Policy document contains permissions. So that's why simply what we say, policies contains permissions. So no one will call it as policy documents and all. People generally call it as policies. What does the policies contain? Let's say, how does the policies contain? Guys, it is containing like this. See. So, for example, EC2. So AWS will provide you the sample policy like EC2 full access. That's it. EC2 full access, or AWS will provide EC2 read-only access. So if I go ahead and then attach this EC2 full access, so Vidya will have EC2 full access. If I go ahead and then attach EC2 read-only access, or the respective IAM user will have the read-only permissions. So guys, remember, these policies, these permissions are written in JSON format. Very, very important. Permissions or policies are written in JSON format. Write down. What format is that? It's a JSON format, JSON code. I told you that there will be a permissions, right? So the permissions, you have to write it. So guys, basically there are two types of policies. There are two types of policies. Number one, we call it as managed policy. And number two, we call it as inline policy. Tell me, guys, there are two types of policies. What are those? Managed policy and then inline policy. Write down. Managed policy and then inline policy. So what is this managed policy? Managed policy meaning, guys, as I said, AWS will give you predefined policies. AWS will give a predefined policies. Just a second. AWS will give you predefined policies. Let's say, for example, guys, how does, okay, let's say, for example, EC2 full permissions. So that is a predefined policy provided by the AWS guys. Give me a second. Okay. So AWS has a predefined policies like EC2 full permission, not only EC2, S3 full access, RDS full access, like predefined permissions policies will be there. You should go and then attach it to the IAM users. Those are, guys, those policies are completely managed and created by AWS. So created and managed by AWS. Created and managed by AWS. So these are all predefined policies. Predefined policies. Predefined policies. Okay. Coming to the inline policy, let's say, for example, for Avinash, either, so if I use the managed policy, either I can give S3 full access or read-only access. Is it possible for me? Okay, now I have a requirement that he should be able to access only his bucket, not others' bucket. This kind of customized policies, this kind of customized policies or this kind of policies, does AWS will provide by default? No. Right? So how does this AWS knows that these kind of policies that he needs? He cannot, right? So that one, we need to create the policies for that. So guys, so it is called inline policies. created and managed by customer. Created and managed by customer is called inline policy. And this also call it as customer managed policies. Customer managed policies. Make sense, guys? Understood? So these policies are written in JSON format, as I'm saying. So guys, don't worry. You might have you might think, sir, do I need to learn a JSON for all these things? No need, guys. AWS is giving something called visual editor or policy generator. So you no need to write the policies from scratch. So you just need to select some parameters. So the JSON code is generated automatically. So you can use, guys, the predefined policies will be there in internet. So from in the Google, you just take it, you can modify according to your needs. That also can be done. Or you just select what exactly the parameters or arguments you need. Automatically, JSON code will be generated. You can use the JSON code to create a policy. Okay, make sense? Is it clear, guys? So these permissions that what I'm talking about, basically two types here: user-based, user-based permissions, and then resource level permissions. So guys, if I'm giving, if AWS is giving you just like EC2 full access, right? Like this S3 read only access. So these are all overall permissions, right? So guys, does the manage policies will come under here or in line? Managed only, no? So resource level permissions meaning, so guys, granular, granular level or deeper level or customize permissions, customize permissions. So what kind of permissions that here? Here you will get inline product. Clear, guys? Everyone till here? Okay. Give me 1 minute, guys. I'm getting a call. Okay. JSON code come under case sensitive. Why you worried about this case sensitive and all? Uh, but there should be case sensitive. Developers, JSON code is case sensitive. Does a policy contain multiple permissions? Yes, possible. You can have you can write an inline policy having multiple permissions inside it. So, okay. Okay. So, and then guys, this type of so which one will take precedence? Like one group will have deny, one given all these things, plug and play, permissions and combinations and like and all these things. Can't buy when we go to the lab, you can give that and we can play around with it. Okay, is it clear? So should I move to the next very important thing? Okay, so guys, this is very important. Please sit down and then listen this carefully. The next thing here we have is IAM roles. What is that? IAM roles. IAM roles. So tell me guys, without having proper username and password or credentials, is it possible to access AWS services through console or through CLI? No. So these roles are like temporary access without credentials. What are the roles called? Temporary access without credentials. Temporary access without credentials. That is called role. But why we call it as temporary access without credentials? What is this? Then we'll talk about this. Let's take a real-time example. So let's take, this is the EC2 instance, guys. Okay. This is the EC2 instance. It's the EC2 instance. Assume this is Linux. Okay. This is the Linux wala. So guys, in order to log into the EC2, log into any mission or EC2 instance, what are the things that we need? In order to log into any server or any mission, what are the things that we need? We need instance IP. Okay. We need instance username and we need instance password. Correct. We need username, IP address, username, and password. Correct. Without this, is it possible for us to log in? No. We need this information. So please be careful. Many people might have a question like, so guys, if I ask a question, what are the things in order for you to need to log into the EC2 instance? Then don't tell me I like this one, guys. You with IAM user, is it possible to log into EC2 instance? With IAM user, is it possible to see? Some people are saying yes, some people are saying no. This IAM user, with IAM user, you will be, IAM user is used to log in or access AWS console, not EC2 instances. Got it, guys? So IAM user is used to log in or access AWS console. Okay, not server or EC2 instance. Remember that. You should not get that. 1 second. Yeah, again, you missed me, huh? So if you miss me, what you should do? Okay. So the dairy milk ad is there, no? Close your eyes. Okay, just kidding. So actually, what is happening? There is our deployment, production deployment is happening in our mid. That's called midweek release. So the team is doing. So once they have any questions, so they are calling it. So that's the reason. Okay. Anyways, so remember, IAM user is used to log in or access AWS console, not the server and EC2 instance. Remember that. Okay. Now, question for you here is, let's take this in EC2 instance and that to Linux. From Linux, is it possible for us to open AWS console and access AWS services? No. Right? So from the Linux, it is command line interface. If it is command line, what is the thing that how do we access AWS services? Using AWS CLI, correct, guys? So using AWS CLI, AWS CLI is basically AWS CLI. Basically, it's a software, right? Uh, it is provided by the AWS. What you need to do is you install this AWS CLI on the Linux machine. It's a software. It's a package, right? And then once you install this AWS CLI, from this AWS CLI, you should be able to access the AWS services. Okay, understood? So AWS CLI is a software which is provided by the AWS, correct? So from the Linux side, so you install this AWS CLI. From this AWS CLI, you should be able to access AWS services. So now, guys, this is AWS CLI. How do we authenticate from AWS CLI to AWS? Understood? Yes. How you are accessing it? So guys, if you want from AWS CLI, if you want to access AWS, you need to authenticate using using keys. Using keys. Make sense? Guys, I have not went very deeper into this yet. One single and you didn't understood that, Akshay? From Linux is a command prompt, no? Linux is a command prompt. Is it possible to open console from here? You are saying yes, Andre. Rajkumar, do you understand the question? From Linux, from the command prompt, will you able to open AWS console? Rajkumar, then why you're saying yes? Understand the question and answer it. Okay. There should not be any mistakes. From guys, this command prompt and Linux command prompt, both are CLI only, no? If I log into the Linux machine, I'll get the command prompt. And this is also the command prompt. Both are CLI only. From this CLI, can I open AWS console? No. If you're not able to open AWS console, so how do you access AWS services from here? From the AWS CLI, correct? AWS CLI is a software available from internet, from AWS. You need to install that software here in the CLI. That how to do? We have a separate class for that. Once you install that, from here you need to run the commands. Let's say if you want to launch an EC2 instance, run some commands and hit enter. EC2 instance will get launched. Understand? So to authenticate from here to AWS, so what we need to have, what we need to configure? We need to configure keys. That's what I'm saying here. Right? Is this clear on the AWS CLI before I move? Okay. So you need to have the keys from the CLI especially. Okay, now tell me, if I configure the keys here, I should be able to access for example, S3 from this CLI, from the commands. Can I access S3? Yes, I can. But the question here is it recommended to, okay, now you have configured the keys on your EC2 instance. Guys, these keys will be stored on your EC2 instance. So anyone can go ahead and see your keys. Is it recommended to configure the keys on your EC2 instance? Answer is no. So guys, if you don't configure the keys on the EC2 instance, will you able to access AWS services like S3? If you don't configure, no. But if you configure, there is a problem with the security, correct? Because the keys are stored on your Linux EC2 instance. How to do? Do you all understood the thing here? I write for you, see. If you don't configure keys on Linux EC2 instance, you cannot access AWS services. Okay. Okay. So if you configure keys on EC2 instance, what will happen? Keys are stored locally on the EC2 instance, which is not safe. Because what will happen? Because it might be hacked. Because it might be hacked. Guys, now understood? This is a problem. This is the problem. Now, how to resolve this issue? If I configure, one problem. If I don't configure, I cannot access it. How? Then the roles will come into picture. Right? The roles will come into picture. So what we need to do is we need to create an IAM role. Guys, for that IAM role, okay, give some name give some name. What is the name of the role? Let's say, for example, Raj role. I'll give some name. For this Raj role, guys, you need to give policies. You need to attach the policies to the role. What policies that you need to attach? That is based on the requirement, based on what the user need to access from the CLI. So here from the CLI, which service that user is interested to access? S3. So for this, what kind of permissions that we need to attach it to the role? S3. Or you can assign EC2 also, whichever the policies that if you want based on the requirement, you can go ahead and then attach it to the role. Okay. And that role, you need to attach it to the EC2 instance. There is an option where you can attach the role to the EC2 instance from the backend. Once you attach this role to the EC2 instance, guys, you need to configure the keys. Without the keys, based on the policies or permissions that you have mentioned here to the role, so from this machine, those can be accessed. Guys, did I configure keys if I have a role? I know to configure keys. So I don't have any credentials, correct, on the machine. Without credentials, I'm able to access AWS services. How do you do that? Using roles. Make sense? Understood? Understood? Correct. So if we use the roles, we no need to configure. See, I'm writing it again for you. No need to configure keys on the machine, correct? If you configure the roles, you no need to. If you use the roles, no need to configure keys on the machine. So based on the permissions that you have attached to the role, those permissions are available from the machine, from the instance. Okay. Do you still have confusion? That's what I said. You are not listening carefully. Everyone understood. Let me pick it, these people. So guys, people are asking, Shobha and Prakash is asking, what is the difference? Shivar Shankar is asking, what is the difference between roles and groups? Is there any relation between roles and groups? Why you are attaching groups here? Why you are getting groups here? First of all, what is there here? The confusion. Are simple, by you are thinking too much. I'm putting it very simple, but you are thinking too much. That's only. Groups is very simple. you are the collection of users. Babu, Srikant, yes, boss. Okay, just understand. Let me explain. Okay. Groups is nothing but collection of IAM users. Those who are asking the question, can you please reply in the chat? Do you understand the group concept? Groups is a collection of IAM users where we'll give the permission, and then that permissions will be inherited to all the users here. Groups clear? Those who are asking the questions on the groups, that who is that? Shobha. Okay. Groups clear. Number 2, roles. Forget about groups. Don't get groups here. Roles. Tell me here. I want you guys to tell me. I have the Linux EC2 instance. Okay. Why I'm not taking Windows? On Windows, can you access AWS services from the console? You can open the browser, no? So I'm taking Linux. So do you all agree Linux is CLI based? Okay. If it is Linux is a CLI based, it's a black dashboard, correct? It's a blackboard. How do we access AWS services from the console from the Linux CLI? What we need to install? Answer it. What we need to install? Correct. Okay, na? You install AWS CLI. Okay. You install the AWS CLI. After installing AWS, can you directly go ahead and access AWS services using commands? No. How do you authenticate? Using keys. I configure the keys. When I configure the keys, these keys will be stored locally on this Linux EC2 instance. Is it good to store the keys on the Linux EC2 instance? Answer is no. So I don't. If I don't put the keys, can you access AWS services? Because there is no authentication. You cannot access it. So if you put the keys, there is a problem. If you don't put the keys, there is a problem. Then what is the concept that we can use it for this kind of situation? A role. So I create a role called some blah blah role, some name. For that role, we need to attach what? Attach policy. What kind of policy we need to attach to the role? Because they depend upon the requirement, correct? So if AWS want to, if the user here, whoever is logging to the EC2 instance, wants to access some specific service, let's say S3. What kind of policies that I need to attach to the role? S3. And this role is created, and this role will be attached to the EC2 instance. Once you attach this role to the EC2 instance, you no need to configure the keys. As the role has S3 permissions here, by default, whoever has logged into the EC2 instance, they can access S3 without giving credentials. Now understood? Same thing I was explaining here, but how you understood now? It's only the concentration. The same concept I have explained, but the concentration is lost. That's a question. So please, that's what I said, concentrate. Okay. Yeah. Good. So now let me go ahead and write. So okay, now tell me, one EC2 instance can have how many roles attached? One role attached at the same time. So one EC2 instance can have one role attached at the same time. So one role can be attached to multiple EC2 instances at the same time? Yes, it can. Can use it. I'll give one more example when to use roles. Okay. Let's say I have the EC2 instance. Okay. So this is the EC2 instance. So guys, I have application inside here. What I have? I have application. Let's take Java or Python, some application. Guys, can you tell me, developers, from your application, there might be a requirement that you should be able to access S3 or doing something to the AWS services, no? Yes, no? Guys? Definitely yes. So from your application, if you want to, from your SDK, if you want to access AWS services, will you create IAM user for your application to access AWS services? No. So you will configure keys in your application. Is it recommended to put keys on your application? Because that is visible for everyone. So for your application, you cannot create an IAM user because your application is not a person where he can open the console and log in as a username and password. So you need to give the keys. So if you put the keys in your application, right? So that is not correct because you cannot keep the keys in your application. So what is the solution you can give here? Again, the roles will come into picture. So create a role, and attach from your application, what application is trying to access S3. So that role you attach to the EC2 instance. Simple. So this is also called it as assume role. Attach role, assume role, or same. Once you attach this role to the EC2 instance, does the keys is required for you? No keys are required. Understood how the roles can be used now? Everyone clear? Okay. So next is very important topic. Guys, I'm telling you, it's hard to explain again and again. Concentrate. And next topic is identity provider. Write down identity provider or federation. Identity provider or federation. So guys, remember, there are few topics where we will learn, but practicals we cannot do because we don't have that kind of infrastructure. So one of the things, maximum 99% will do the practicals, but 1 or 2 due to some infrastructure related things, we cannot do the practicals. So this identity provider also one of the thing. So listen this carefully, guys. Listen this carefully. Okay, I'm telling you. Have you heard about SSO? Single sign-on. Single sign-on. Okay. Single sign-on. What is this single sign-on? So if you have not heard about this, definitely you might have seen somewhere. How? When you're surfing in internet and you want to register to any of the website. So nowadays they are giving as login with Google account, login with Facebook account, login with LinkedIn account, correct? So are they asking you to go ahead and then fill the form? No. So they're simply saying whenever you land on a new website, so they're saying that Okay, log in with Google, you log in with, you know, to register. You can log in directly with your Gmail or with your Facebook or with your LinkedIn like this. What is that called? That is called single sign-on. So you have already signed in for one thing, and the same sign-in you can be using for the multiple services. That is called single sign-on. So how do we use the single sign-on in AWS? So guys, whenever you joined a company, they'll give what? They'll give the email ID and password for you, username and password. You will get your email ID, correct? Okay. So whenever you join your company, from company will give this email ID and password. Correct? With this email and password, tell me, with this company email ID and password, will you able to log into AWS console? No, because in AWS console, to log into AWS console, you need to have AWS credentials. Like you should have IAM user, correct? Will you log into AWS using your company email ID and password? No, you need to have AWS credentials. From that, you will be logging into AWS. This is how generally we do, correct? Now, how many credentials that I need to remember in this case? I need to remember my company email ID and password. I need to remember my AWS credentials too, in this case, correct? So what if with my company email ID and password only, I should be able to log in directly to my AWS. I don't need any IAM user to be created here. Don't create IAM user. Okay. Don't create IAM user here. So guys, if you are directly logging with your company email and password direct to AWS without any credentials here in your AWS without IAM user, that will be done. That setup will be done. That setup is called SSO, single sign-on. Single sign-on. So actually, this is out of topic for us, but still I'm going and explaining to you how this can be achieved. So before this thing, I need to ask you, I need to give one example. Let's say this is your company. This is your company. Okay. So in your company, you will have so many desktops, no? So many workstations will be there, no? Guys, desktop. So many desktops will be there. So many servers will be there. So many laptops will be there. Machines will be there. Hmm? Okay, let's say I have these desktops over here. Okay. Now you went to the company with your email ID and password. Okay, you went to the company. Can you tell me, let's say Lakshman went. Lakshman, can he go ahead and then access the first server? This one? Yes. So he can go ahead and then log into the first server, first desktop. He can log in it. Yes, good. He can log in it. Now, Pooja also went. Can she also log into the same desktop? Yes, she can also do. Right? Anwar also went. Anwar also do. So that meaning, guys, can you tell me this? Okay, same Anwar can also do the login here in this another desktop. Yes, Srividya can do it. Yes. Suhas can do it. Yes. Avinash can do it. Yes. So everyone are able to log into all the machines over here. So that meaning, can you tell me these? So the users will be created locally here in the desktop. If you think that users are created locally on the desktops, guys, 100 people will be there. That meaning I need to create 100 users in each desktop. So some other 200 person will come. So that meaning so I need to make sure the users are created in the each and every desktop. How many desktops will be there in the entire company? So many. Is it hard, no, to create a local users here? For that reason, so we have the users can be created centrally in one location, and that directory is called Active Directory. In shortcut, you call it as PD. What is that called? Active Directory. What is that called, everyone? Active Directory. And you can also call it as domain controller. Domain controller. So in domain controller, you create the users. If you're creating the users in domain controller, and those are called domain users. So you create the users called user 1, user 2, and all. User 1, user 2, user 3, like this, you can keep on creating it. Okay. So guys, and now you have created, guys, by the way, if you need to have an Active Directory, you need to have one domain. No, let's take an example. My domain name is boom.com. Guys, whenever you log into your company laptop, you will be logged in with your username, password, and the domain in the bottom, right? Infosys.com, TCS.com, or your customer something.com. So that is your domain. This Active Directory is nothing but that Active Directory. So all the desktops, all the servers, workstations will be connected to this Active Directory. All these things will be connected to this Active Directory. All these things, all the desktops, users, everything will be connected. So this one we call it the word we call it as join. So we will join all these desktops to this Active Directory. Now, let's say, for example, here user 1 will come. User 1 with this password. Whenever the user 1 comes with the password, whenever he log into this first machine, user 1, he has provided username, password. Once he hit enter, guys, this information will be validated in the backend to the Active Directory, and the user 1 is there or not, it will check. The password is correct or not, check. Then only it will say that yes, if the username password is correct, then only he will be able to log into this machine. Otherwise, if the password is correct, if the username is not there, he will not be able to log in. Right? Correct, guys, understood? So using this, so with one user, you are logging it to the multiple desktops. That is the concept of Active Directory. Or you can also call it as, what is the protocol that uses? It uses the protocol called LDAP. It uses the protocol called LDAP. Guys, you understood the concept of Active Directory, brief? Guys, this Active Directory is a huge, big subject. Okay. So in AWS, this Active Directory concept, we call it as directory services. What is that called? Directory services. Okay, so basically this is how you have your Active Directory concept in your company. Now let's come. Now you understood what is this company email ID and password. Your company email ID and password is nothing but this this domain username password, correct? Yes. Active Directory manages all the users here. Yes, correct, Andrew. Okay, guys, you all agree your company email ID password is nothing but your domain username and password? Okay. So with this username and password, you should be able to log into the AWS. Your email ID and password is nothing but that is LDAP. Your Active Directory related. With this, you need to log into the AWS. How? You need to set up SSO. Understand? Understand, guys? So for that, you need to have this left side infrastructure, your company email ID. Do we have the company email ID and password for us with us in order to set up all these things? No, right? For that reason, so we cannot do the practicals on it, but it's very easy. So instead of LDAP, so guys here, LDAP is not only one thing. So there are so many third-party tools that you can use it for this. If you have LDAP, you can go with the LDAP. Otherwise, you have LDAP. Have you heard about Okta? Have you heard about OAuth? Guys, there are so many different third-party tools are there. What they will be doing is, guys, this Okta, OAuth, yeah, so many are there. This one, they will use for single sign-on. How? So using Okta, directly they will be logging to the AWS console. How? Guys, LDAP, Okta, what are third-party tools? I'm mentioning third-party tools. These are third-party tools. So let's say you have Okta. Okay. So guys, if you take Okta or LDAP or OAuth, first you need to do a federation between your Okta, this third-party tool in AWS, no? That meaning federation is nothing but connection. Federation to AWS. So you need to set up identity provider. First, you need to establish a connection, no? Guys, first you need to establish a connection. That is nothing but federation to AWS. We call it as federation to AWS or identity provider. So I'll put like this also, see. So this is connection from Okta to AWS, for example. You need to establish the connection from Okta to AWS. I'm taking one example, Okta. So now, do I need to create IAM users in AWS in order to connect? Do I need to create IAM users? No. Where should I create? I will be creating users over here in my third party or in LDAP or in Okta or in OAuth. Here I create it like users 1 like this, user 2 like this. So using Okta or LDAP or OAuth, here user 1 is there from Okta. Now he should be able to access AWS services. Okay. As your connected federation is done to AWS, now this Okta has permissions to log into AWS. That's fine. But user 1 has what policies to access? Here in AWS, what we need to do, we need to create IAM roles. You create roles. Let's say, for example, you create a role called developers, you create a role called admins, you create a role called DevOps people. And can you attach the permissions also for this in the backend? For developers, role is nothing but Lambda, etc. You can put it. Admin meaning you can give admin full permissions. For permissions. DevOps meaning you can give some EC2, etc. Guys, all these things, where do we create? All these roles, where do we create? These roles we create in AWS. Now, as the connection is established from your LDAP or Okta to AWS, can Okta can read these roles as the connection is established? You tell me. Okta can read these roles as the connection is established? Yes, Okta can read. So whenever you're creating a roles, then Okta will ask boss, what kind of roles that user 1 should be attached? And I'll say developer role. So whenever user 1 has logged in with Okta to AWS, this developer role will be assigned. So whatever the developer role has the permissions, this user 1 can access that the same services. Got it? Understood? So this Okta will give you a URL to access your AWS. URL to access AWS. So guys, so if you want to manage the single sign-on, that's what I said, the federation, Syed Bhai. The connection is already established. That connection, we need to do it first. Yes, Khan, correct. Okay. So guys, this is the advanced topic. Actually, I no need to explain, but I don't hold those topics with me. So that's the reason why I have explained to you. This is an advanced topic and we cannot do the practicals on it. All right. So just to give you additional information. So first you need to do is have third-party tool. First, you need to have a third-party tool like Okta. and then federation establish to AWS from Okta. I'm giving you notes. Number 3, so create IAM roles in IAM, in AWS IAM. Number 4, so create users in third tool and assign a role, assign roles. Number 5, access AWS using URL provided by Okta. Okay, na? This is how you should do. Actually, guys, no one will teach you all these things. So I'm just going some extra feet for you. And in associate also, they don't ask all these questions. But at least you got an idea on how this SSO works, no? Actually, I should supposed to cover another topic also. Yeah. But don't worry, I'll cover that tomorrow. Okay. Take the screenshots. Yeah. Very good. Thank you. Thank you.